This episode of The Unstarving Musician is powered by liner notes. Learn from the hundreds of musicians and industry professionals I've spoken with for The Unstarving Musician on topics such as marketing, songwriting, touring, sync licensing, and much more. Sign up for liner notes at unstarvingmusician.com. It's an email newsletter from yours truly in which I share some of the best knowledge gems garnered from the many conversations featured on The Unstarving Musician. You'll also be privy to the latest podcast episodes and liner notes subscriber exclusives. Sign up at unstarvingmusician.com. It's free and you can unsubscribe at any time. This is The Unstarving Musician. I'm Rabanzo, and on this podcast I feature conversations with independent music artists and industry professionals with occasional special topic episodes featuring yours truly, all intended to help indie music artists better understand the marketing, business, and creative processes that empower us to do more of what we love: make music. That was pretty good. This is the second episode in which I'm featuring, piloting, debuting new theme music. It's New Gods Part 2, which I co-wrote with Peter Rand. You can find a link in the show notes for this song with the lyrics, the full version, available for purchase, download, and or streaming. I would love that if you did any of those. How are you? Where are you? Are you driving, exercising, washing dishes, getting ready to start your day, scooping the cat box maybe? Do you have a cat? I'm always curious, or lately I'm curious about what it is you're doing when you're listening to podcasts, or specifically The Unstarving Musician. Hey, a few weeks ago I updated the Unstarving Musician listener survey, which I sent out to Liner Notes subscribers, but maybe you're not a Liner Notes subscriber. I'm still interested in your opinion. You can help me shape the podcast and other things related to the Unstarving Musician by participating, and if you'd like to be part of that, go to unstarvingmusician.com/survey, and for participating you'll be registered in a drawing, to get a free copy of my book, The Unstarving Musician's Guide to Getting Paid Gigs, in paperback or Kindle, your choice. My guest for this episode is Kelda Williams, known professionally as Keldamuzik, aka Diva. She is an American music artist, an actress, TV host, and producer, born in the Bay Area of California. She's known for her hit singles Queen for a Night and Thirsty, which are both on her fourth studio album, Diva TV, which came out in 2010. After honing her craft as a music artist, Kelda expanded her brand into different areas of the entertainment industry. She dabbled in other genres of music, such as pop and dance. She produced and hosted TV shows, and produced films, and pursued an acting career. Later, she started running her own entertainment company known as Digz Media Group. Kelda is into a lot of things. We talk about this. Specifically, we talk about the hip-hop rap scenes of Oakland, child acting, the birth of Keldamuzik, merch, fashion, modeling, speaking gigs, sync placements, creative processes, content strategy, her press portfolio, explicit lyrics and rap, and her social media jam, her favorite social network. We experienced a bit of audio quality issues, which I feel I'm saying a lot lately, but I'm always working to improve that for you, dear listener. So know that. All right, here's me talking to Keldamuzik, aka Diva. Enjoy. You were born in the Bay Area, yes? San Francisco Bay Area?
Yeah, San Francisco Bay Area, San Jose to be exact.
Well, how nice. I lived in San Jose with my wife, Sammy, for like 17 years until 2016.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was born and raised there and moved to the East Bay in 2005.
Wow, that's cool. Where in the East Bay are you?
So I moved to Oakland for a little while. That's like how I got everything started with my actual music career. And now I live like in the Pinole, Richmond area.
I'm familiar, yeah. Is Oakland by chance any better for your genre of music than other parts of the Bay Area? Just out of curiosity.
Most definitely. If I were anywhere else, I would not have the same kind of success that I have today.
Nice. Is it community? Is it like Black community, or is it something else, or a combination of things?
Yeah, it's predominantly a Black community and a huge movement in entertainment, specifically, hip hop, from, underground to conscious hip hop, to mainstream hip hop, R&B soul. Just so many talented artists come out of Oakland. And funny thing is, people, travel from other countries, or not other countries, other states, to go to Oakland just to, you know, work within the people in that city, because there's just so many talented artistic individuals there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I remember it as such anyway, like an artistic town, and it just dawned on me as we started
Hmm.
talking that I'm
Hmm.
like, it seems like maybe I have noticed more, as far as music goes, more like hip hop and maybe rap has come out of there. And that, am I right? And that's been building for about more than 20 years, or at least 20 years in Oakland.
Hmm.
That,
Hmm.
yeah, okay. Yeah, we were around for a little bit of it, I guess. Like I didn't realize, I mean, I played in the Bay Area for a number of years, just like a working, subbing drummer and playing in different bands of my own, but had
Oh, nice.
occasionally seen some hip hop artists out that way, and it just didn't dawn on me that that's where it was all happening.
Yeah, no, even quite a few actors and actresses come out of Oakland too. Zendaya is from Oakland.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So,
We're watching a Netflix series because I heard her on the I guess she's one of the producers, but she's the main actor. It's a show called Truth Be Told, and her name eludes me at the moment. She's a very famous actor, but I'm I'm blanking on her name. Anyway, it's kind of based in Oakland. It's kind of cool. I'm like, I know they've done a million shows in Oakland, but I feel like this is the first time I've watched one.
yeah. There hasn't really even been any TV shows that have come out of Oakland. So for her to, to do something like that, it's, that's creating a milestone already for Oakland when it comes to showbiz.
Octavia Spencer, that's who I was trying to think of.
Octavia Spencer, yes. What now? She's from
Well,
Oakland?
I think she's originally from the South. I'm trying to remember where. I want to say Alabama, but I may be wrong. But she lived a number of years, I believe, in LA. But for whatever reason, I don't know if she lives there now, but for whatever reason, they based her. Is that an Apple TV series? They based it in Oakland. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. And you said Octavia Spencer.
Yeah. So she was. I, I know it wasn't the first thing she was in, but it's maybe one of the really big things she's been in recent years. Was that maybe The Help? She's one of the
Hmm.
gals in
Oh,
there.
yes, The Help. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I really liked her in that movie.
So you have been a lot of things in entertainment and media,
Yeah.
and we'll touch on some of those. But where did you start, and how did you get to music? Maybe you started there. I'm not sure, but like, where did you start? And if it wasn't with music, how did you get into music as well?
Yeah. So, growing up in San Jose, my mom, I was what, about 4 or 5 years old. And you know how there's certain parents that tried to achieve their goal in show business, but they got older, had kids. So it's kind of like they lived their dreams through their kids. And that's what my mom did. I didn't even know what situation she was putting me in, but all I know was, I'm missing some days of school, uh, playing and hanging out with friends and doing the regular kid stuff, to go to acting class, modeling class, rehearsing, memorizing scripts and commercials. And I'm like, how does this benefit me, mommy? What is this? I was like, is this like an extra project for school? Is this school related? And she was like, no, you're going to be in front of the cameras and someone's going to discover you and you're going to be on the big screen one day. And from there, at first I was a bit sour about it, because as a kid, you really don't know what you're getting into. And if you don't enjoy it, don't enjoy it. But I grew to like it and I started doing it on my own. So as I got older, I pursued modeling. I would go to modeling classes. I would be in a few fashion shows, not many. To tell you the truth, all of that was just practice for me, from the acting and modeling part. And then when I was a teenager, I cut a few R&B tracks and even did a whole R&B album. You know, not to say I was a great singer, but I think in every girl, we just all want to naturally sing. And so I recorded a album and a few records back then. And then 2005 came around and I went to University of San Francisco, but that's where I relocated to Oakland. And when I relocated there, that's when Keldamuzik was born. And that's when I started recording hip hop music. And I fell in love with hip hop just because of the wordplay that you can write and how it's impressive to people, just like poetry. Except for with poetry, you don't necessarily have to rhyme all the time. And I'm not saying in rap you do either, but with rap and it's applied to music, it just gives you a whole different outlook. And when you pair music up with visuals such as music videos or just anything you see outside, it just makes you enjoy it so much more. And that's exactly what I like about hip hop and what kept me pursuing it. So it was in 2005 when I dropped my first album called Shut Up Listen. It was under Squad Music Group, which was an independent label based in Oakland. And I was doing shows. My first show was at Juneteenth in Berkeley on a flatbed truck, but the audience was packed. Everybody just wanted to come out, have a good time, have some good food, drinks from all the vendors. And I was nervous, but I had my hype man on stage with me, and that kind of made me less nervous. But the fact that that was my first show and so many people were there, I'm like, ah, it was crazy.
That must have been exciting.
Very, yeah.
And what are you up to right now with all, again, a lot of different things you've done, and it seems like a lot of them simultaneously. What's the latest project you're into at the moment?
Yeah, so there's a couple of projects I have my hands in. Musically, I'm doing quite a few shows coming up between June and May. And then I'm also starring in a play called Crumbs from the Table of Joy. That will be held at the Town Hall Theater in Lafayette. That starts June 3rd through the 23rd. That's when all the shows start. Prior to then, it's all rehearsals and tech days and, dress fitting days. I'm also working on a TV show with comedian Mario Hodge, who's on top right now. He's like the face of Bay Area comedy right now. And I play his wife. We already recorded 2 shows. We recorded a pilot. And right now, the producer is trying to shop it. And I have my line of berets called Tams. And with Tams, I've been hosting fashion shows, producing fashion shows, having my people vend for me at fashion shows. And most of all, I'm working with a lot of models who are wearing the Tams berets and they're walking on the runway advertising my berets. So that's on the merchandising side. And recently, I was a guest speaker at an alopecia nonprofit organization called Boldly Me. It took place in Fremont at the Dominican Sisters Center. I discussed the story behind Tams, how I came up with Tams, how it relates to me having hair issues, and how it could relate to just anybody who is not really into their hair, who doesn't have much hair or have hair at all, and how Tams came about. So that took place April 1st, and footage of that is on my Instagram page, also on my websites, on YouTube. But yeah, that's pretty much what I have going on for right now.
That's a lot. I was going to ask you about merch and the Tams berets and specific. Well, one of the things I was going to ask is what's the story behind them. So you sort of answered part of it. How did you come up with the name for them?
Originally, okay, it was during COVID. All of us, I'm not going to lie, all of us artists, actors, models, whoever you are, all of us were kind of taking a pay cut and having to figure out a different way to keep the cash flow coming in. And for me, there was just so much competition making female products like makeup, wigs, jewelry, clothes. I just couldn't compete with that. I already know I couldn't compete with that because I didn't have any original ideas like most of these artists do. So I came up with a beret. It was my mom who actually, during COVID, she kept mailing me berets. And she's like, these are cute. And I was like, hey, these are cute. And I got a lot of compliments every time I stepped out the door. And from there, I said, you know what? I think I need to come up with my own beret, not just a regular hat, not a cap or even like a different kind of bonnet. I said, let's make a beret. And originally they were named Tinks, but I got a letter from an organization stating that it conflicts with Disney's brand called Tink, which is a children's apparel. They sell hats as well. And so my brand was in conflict with theirs because I'm selling hats and I'm calling them Tinks. So immediately I changed the name to Tams because Tams was a slang word that they would call berets back in the day, like when my parents were younger in the, 50s, 60s, 70s, they would be like, hey, I like your Tams, So that's how I came up with Tams. And it originally was spelled with the S at the end, but I put a Z just to kind of, spice things up a little bit. And and yeah, and that's how Tams came about.
All right, I like it. So that was your first foray into merch?
Yes, yes.
And do you have other ideas that you're floating around in your own, be it with your head or people you work with, or things that you've already learned about your foray into merch thus far?
Yeah, I do want to. I know I want to leave the hats the way they are as far as like, how they're made. But in the future, I'll probably end up adding on items on the berets, probably might even remove the word Tams. And if someone wants their name embroidered onto the Tams or maybe a logo, maybe a zodiac sign, I kind of want to cater more to what the customers want. And I definitely want to expand the colors because right now we just have 10 colors. I eventually want to go up to as many colors as I can. And I want to create a sparkling lipstick that will complement your beret.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it. What if you had any advice to offer artists, musicians that are like wanting to know more about merch, what would you offer?
I would say try to come up with the original idea. And when you do, I don't know if anyone watches Shark Tank, but everything's all about supply and demand. And if you notice that we are missing something that could be helpful or useful or make you look better for that matter, study it and study every aspect about it so that you can speak on it thoroughly and not just sit there smiling and laughing like, oh, I created a scarf. Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? No, like if you're going to be a brand, a brand owner and an ambassador of your brand, and you want to partner with others, you want to sell your product, know as much as you can about your product. And again, come up with something original, something that people will absolutely love, something that will sell. And, once you do have that idea in your head, make sure you get it trademarked, make sure you get it copywritten, and work with people who are in the same industry as you, because nothing's better than getting advice from someone who's been very successful at merchandising already, whether they're an artist or just a founder of their own brand. And it's also the way to go right now for a lot of artists. You know, we make our money through bookings, licensing, music placements, and merchandise. So when you come up with a unique idea with merchandise, it's gonna move. It's gonna change people's lives. It's gonna change your life, and it's just gonna create a whole movement that has never been done before.
Speaking of song placements, I did want to ask you about that. I'm just kind of curious the route that you took to get into it. It seems from reading that I did that you have done a fair amount of it, maybe, and you just mentioned it, maybe you've continued to do it since it first got started for you. Is there a particular route that you've taken, and did it first come about, serendipitously, or was there some intention behind it?
Yeah, it was actually kind of random. It was maybe about like 10 to 12 years ago. I linked with this publishing company. And mind you, I didn't even really know what a publishing company was. I was just worried about making music and at the time passing out CDs to people on the streets. But a publishing company approached me. They said they heard one of my songs that they liked and they wanted to exclusively add it to their pool of music. And next thing you know, I get a call saying, hey, your music's going to be placed on a film produced by Sony Entertainment called Please Give, starring Amanda Peet. And I just got so excited. And when the movie came out, my business partner and I, we drove to San Francisco. We went to the IMAX theater because that was the first theater it premiered at. And I was just waiting and waiting, watching the film. And finally I heard it. I was like, oh my God. I was like, that is my song in a film, a major film. So, yeah. So from there, I just kept building my Rolodex and started working with more film placement companies, music supervisors, just approaching them all with my music and also remixing a lot of my old songs so they could more likely get picked up for any of today's projects. I'm sure when you watch the Super Bowl or just watching TV in general, you'll hear like an old MC Hammer song or an old Montel Jordan song or Papa Roach or Guns N' Roses. You'll hear a snippet of some of their old music on a commercial or in a film, or they'll even appear in it. And that's just the joy out of music, because there's just so many ways you can go when it comes to marketing. Like, your music is forever lasting.
And the publisher that you initially worked with, are they still part of the roster in your Rolodex?
Yes, they are. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I plan on submitting more music to them pretty soon. I'm actually getting some remixes done on a few songs that I recorded about a year ago. So once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and make that submission and hope I could get some more placements.
Very nice. Yeah, it seems to be a bigger and bigger deal these days. I think the pandemic sort of opened people's eyes that, I need to think about other sources of income. And it's just like kind of a hot topic among educators, and, podcasts are talking about it all the time. And I've gotten curious about it. So, I've heard stuff and listening to other podcasts and talking. And I've had several artists on here who've done it and just kind of slowly thinking about different questions to ask about it. So anyway, that's nice. The way that you've continued to build it. Let's stay in the how did you and what advice would you have column and ask you about how about the creative process? Has that changed for you over time when it comes to making music or doing anything new in terms of your process?
Yeah, it's definitely more easier considering technology continues to evolve, and studio engineers are using new recording platforms now, or it's either enhanced. There's ways now for me where I can record at home and just send the files. I don't have to be in the studio anymore with the artist. If I'm at another studio or recording at my house, all I got to do is just record it, send over the files, the stems, and from there, the engineer mixes it and blends it all together. So, and when it's time to do a music video or something, that's usually when the artist and I come together. But yeah, as far as on the creative side, it's easier now. And when you have a studio in your house, you just have more time to write, more time to perfect your craft, more time to hone your craft, and to just really listen to what your brain is telling you, opposed to being rushed on a clock because you only have studio time for 2 hours and it's going to be $200. And it's like, okay, let me quickly write this verse, and then later you listen to it, you're like, I'm not too happy with it. So the creative process has changed in a good way.
And if you could sort of sum up your creative process, or maybe some of the little things that are so important to it, maybe things that would inspire others, what would those either sort of routines or rituals or pieces of the process be?
Yeah, so I would say always, I would say buy a voice recorder, or even if you have a recorder on your phone, your computer, play some music on another device and just practice recording yourself over other people's music. We all have instrumentals out there, and then, you have DJs that release instrumentals. Record yourself over an instrumental and see how you sound. See how you can make yourself better. See what you could work on. And once you start doing that, practice, and practicing, then you could approach a producer or search for a producer on social media. There's so many of them out there. And you could start the process of recording an official song. It's really about just being locked in a room by yourself and just being able to record yourself and play back, and knowing how much better you can sound, or how you want to say this word, that word, what tone do you want to sing or rap in. So it's really about practicing by yourself, and then invite some friends over and have them listen to you. Have your boyfriend, girlfriend, or parents listen to you. You know what I mean? You want people to support you. You need a cosign. You need somebody who's going to tell you if that sounds good or bad, or it needs to be better, before you start going to the big guys and spending big money trying to make big records.
That's good advice. It's funny that you started with that, recording yourself. I've been recently working on putting together like a vocal resume in the form of video performances, and just like acoustic things here in my home studio. And I had a lot of these things you just mentioned happen too. So I had in the most recent one I wanted to do, I had a friend come over with keyboard and play on it. And just as soon as we got started, and I hadn't done the, sing it to the track much, and I had not recorded myself yet. So clearly I was feeling pretty confident, but we got in the room, she starts playing, she goes, we need to work on this one part, or let's talk about ways we might be able to change it or something. We never did do the video that evening. She said, I really think and I thank her a lot for it, but I really think you'd be happier with it if we nailed this part. So one of the first things I started doing was I found a track to it, an instrumental track to it, and I started recording it. And I knew that, it's funny, I think it was mostly a time issue, because the one that I did prior, I did some a cappella recordings because I could feel I was struggling with some bits. But for this one, I guess it's a little more difficult for me. So it's helping me to do it to an instrumental track. So I think I think it's turning out to be good advice for me anyway.
That's a good way of doing it too. And that's good advice for aspiring musicians as well. You just always don't ever rush music when you're making it, when you're writing it, when you're figuring out the beats, whatever. Take your time, because if you're going to do this, then do it. Don't half-ass it.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah.
And on the acting front, so it sounds like you really got started at a young age. You took classes.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of sticking in the advice or insights column here, but I imagine people get into it in different ways, or are trying to get into it in different ways. Maybe we have some people that are like, they didn't start as a child, they didn't do classes, or maybe they're just starting to do classes as an adult. And it sounds like you've been doing it for a while, so you've probably seen a lot of changes, but is there anything that you can offer to people who have perhaps gotten started or want to get started in acting?
I would say don't try to spend money going to acting schools at first. Go to a local community college where you're only spending what, 20, 30 bucks a semester, and take theater classes. That's the best training that you'll ever get because it's just naturally going to bring the best out of you, right? Because the whole thing is you have to get the acting part down. And once you've taken a certain amount of classes for that, then you can go to a real acting professional that will teach you all the technical stuff, like if a producer uses a particular word, you know what that means, you know what to do, you know where to go. So start small first, and when you start small, you're starting with a small group of people. They're all aspiring actors who want to get in films and stuff. But the first thing is taking theater, because also too, hey, you're graded on it. So what are you going to do? You're going to do your best, right? And this is a passion that you have that you're trying to make into a career eventually. So yeah, start off with theater at your local community college, and just keep moving up from there.
It sounds like solid advice. Do you have any thoughts on, and maybe you've done it, but do you have thoughts on doing, I don't know if they're called workshops or if they actually have classes for doing comedy that lend themselves to acting as well?
Yeah, yeah, I've heard of those classes. I never thought really about conducting workshops just because, well, for one, I'm too busy at the moment, but but secondly, I'd say someone who's more advanced in acting would be the right person to do that. Like someone who just focuses on acting only, nothing else. That's pretty much the type of person who should conduct a workshop because they know every aspect of showbiz. Again, learning the lingo when a director says this or that, or helping you when it's time to audition, how to do a cold read, how to do a slate, right? Theater's not going to teach you all that, but it's when you move forward and you start paying for real acting classes, like in LA or even out here sometimes. There's some pretty good coaches, and they're pricey, but it's worth it.
It'll help you get work.
Yeah. Yes.
What you're describing obviously is the better route. What I was trying to ask was, do you think that classes on like stand up lend themselves to like maybe similar to theater classes or the community college classes to sort of help you just kind of get parts of it that are involved in being, in front of, delivering lines and maybe being in front of audiences as you would in theater?
Yeah, I would definitely say so, because with comedy, that's like reading a monologue that you personally wrote yourself, but now you're trying to make people laugh. It's a good way, for one, to get the stage fright out of you, how to be in front of an audience, how to participate, get the audience to participate in what you're doing. Yeah, I think comedy is a great way. As a matter of fact, they have like improvising classes, right? So that's how, you learn to just tap into your inner actor, your inner self, and they give you a topic, and it's up to you to interpret it the way you want. If you want to make a comedy out of it, or something serious, or something sad, I think all of those areas really help. So comedy, improv, all of that can help you advance yourself as an actor.
That's what I was trying to think of, improv classes, but yeah, it seemed like it would, but I was just kind of curious, having gone through the track that you have, what you thought about it. And then, so you've clearly got a ton of content out there, and I
Yeah.
assume it's like an ongoing, forever moving thing for you, to keep doing it. What has been your secret weapon for amassing content and also just keeping it coming, so to speak?
Basically, for all the projects that I'm in, I'm always filming behind the scenes, or just, doing little skits. And then especially working with my models now with the berets and fashion shows, there's just so much content out there. I just have my people cut it up, make it look more exciting than what it is, and then boom, put it out there. And for me, that's just what, the more content you make, the more traffic is being driven to your socials and your website.
Yeah. And back to the fashion shows, you mentioned them earlier and just now again. Is that it has been a new thing for you in your career, being involved in them?
It's all because of the berets.
Mm-hmm.
When I first launched the berets, I was approached at first like, hey, who owns Tams? And I'm like, I do. And so they're just like, oh, they're like, well, we're doing a couple fashion shows and we can use clothing, accessories, and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And then they were like, well, as a matter of fact, why don't you just host it as well? Because I had a talk show before on Coffee TV Channel 20. Mm-hmm. And so I still have those hosting skills and applied it to the fashion shows. So when the models are walking out on the runway, and especially when they're wearing Tams, I'll play my music. I created a Tams jingle.
I heard the Tams jingle. I thought I was going to listen to one of your otherwise non-jingle songs. I'm like, oh, wow, it's a Tams jingle. That was great. It was great.
Yes, thank you.
And you do a lot of, or at least you regularly do, I don't know if it's a lot, but you have sort of a regular rotation of these kind of hosting and event things that you do as well, yes?
Yeah. Now it's like I'm hosting anything. I could damn near host a wedding if I was approached.
So I know a lot of people really, love the idea of public speaking, which I'm sure you do as well. And like the whole hosting thing is kind of just it's very akin to public speaking or a close cousin. I'm assuming it's been this portfolio of things that you've done that helps, but do you do things that you can share with listeners that help you to market that part of what you do so that you continue to get those, or are you to a point now where they're just kind of coming in because of past things you've done?
They're just coming in because of past things that I've done and just overall my reputation and who I am, what I represent. Social media obviously is very powerful. Whenever you post anything on there, and you never know who's watching and who has what event coming up, and hey, we need a host, we need a performer. How can we book you? We saw you host and perform at this fashion show or at this fundraiser. How could we work together? And from there, it's just like you continue to keep going up, 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 and you build relationships with these people to where they call you back again to do the same thing. And now it's just, you become untouchable because people have to pay you now. People have to, if they want to work with you and even use some of your sources, there has to be a plan in place now, which means there has to be a budget in place. So it's just all about climbing up the ladder and reaching to the top.
I think people can appreciate that.
Yeah.
And how did you go about building your press portfolio? And by that, I'm specifically thinking of like, how do you go about, and I probably need to have you think about the earlier days, because it sounds like this is also something you do regularly, but how did you go about getting yourself featured in a magazine or on a podcast or maybe at an event? I don't know if you've done any of the, what do they call the cornerstones? God, what's wrong with me today? The keynote, maybe you've done some keynotes as well. But so I was looking, and I thought of this question. So I was looking at your website and you've got a lot of press stuff there. So how did you go about building that portfolio for yourself?
Well, for me, I have a publicist. They have connections already with people that they know. So all they have to do is make a simple introduction. My advice that I would tell musicians is find like a college intern who's into writing, business, marketing, and kind of show them the ropes as far as how the industry works, and find your local resources. Like out here, we have K-Ron, we have NBC, Coffee TV, KTSF, so many different outlets, Clear Channel. try to get involved with whatever events they're doing and network with the media, the press, have business cards. Be ready to start introducing yourselves and having conversations with these people, because those are the people who are going to write about you, because you're building a personal relationship with them now.
And when you say get involved, does that mean being involved for things like volunteering for events or?
Sure. Volunteering, like, KMEL 94.9, they're always supporting, nonprofit events, benefit concerts. You could see how you could volunteer somehow just to be in the mix, just to be there when their DJs there, their interns are there, their street promotion, and just start networking, start mingling, and, become a volunteer, become an intern. And from there, that's just how you further your career, because you're building relationships with people. You're putting yourself in their shoes. It's just all about being social.
You have a blog post on your website that I think talks about the networking, and it was I don't know if it's advice for musicians or what it was, but anyway, yes, you had that in there and some other really good tidbits. I need to put a link in the show notes for that. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
And then, okay, this one's a little left field of where we've been, but it dawned on me, and I'm going to sound like a prude. And it's not like I don't listen to explicit lyric music, and it's been around forever. But I do, and I'm asking just for like your opinion on, just your opinion. But like, I do feel that explicit lyrics in hip hop and rap are just front and center always, more so than in other genres. And I guess I just wanted your opinion on maybe why that is. Maybe it's been going on I'm sure it has been going on forever. Has it ratcheted up in more recent years? Does anybody care? Is it just old guys like me that are like, why is it always so explicit? What do you think?
You know what? It really depends what era we're in when it comes to hip hop. So if we're thinking of, the 70s or 80s, yes, we are thinking about clean hip hop, because that era back then was mixing with other genres of music. Now, as hip hop continued to develop, artists started understanding that they could tell a message through hip hop. And if it's explicit, it is, but in a way, it's like a public speaker or a poet. You have something to get off your chest. You have something that you want to say. Now, if you're using explicit language in it, that's what you would have said anyway to whoever you're talking to. So why not put it on wax, put it on record? Now, when it comes to today's era of hip hop, that's just the thing. Everybody's going to say something that you might not like, because they're just trying to make music for the audience, right? They're trying to get your ears perked up. And that's what hip hop does, because it's such a creative, I like to call music a sport, because it's just so, it's not only creative, but it's, it's artistic, and it's something that a lot of people realize they end up liking. And I've seen the most oddest people, or the most odd people out there, that listen to hip hop, and they'll listen to the explicit language and everything, because you just have to think about it. Like, it's just a word. You know what I mean? Now, the meaning behind that word could mean something negative if you want it to be, or it could mean something positive in a way, but for example, when I record music, and if I'm using any explicit language, I'm going to use it for a reason. I'm not just going to use it to be using it, because now that just makes it look like you're not putting any heart into your music. So, whenever writing music or whatever, just make it make sense. If you're going to say anything that people might not want to hear, But if you have a reason for saying that and the rest of the song kind of makes sense, then everything comes all together. Oh, that's why he said that in his first verse, because on the second verse, he's saying that. And a good example that I like to use is someone like Eminem. You know, he's not just on record saying explicit stuff just to get you to laugh or to get you mad at him. He wants you to feel what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I almost feel like he's a clean artist now that you bring him up compared to some of the things I hear, but I should probably listen to more of his current stuff. And I gather he sort of lives in a silo these days, which good for him, I guess. But, and for me, like in his voice, you can hear, I mean, you can hear that he means it. It almost wouldn't matter to me what he says. And I guess I was wondering, is it like artist driven? It sounds, you, I think were saying that it's largely audience driven. Do you think there's as much the drive for explicit language in hip hop from the artists and the industry, or is it purely audience driven, or what we think the audience wants, or maybe what we know they want?
Again, it just depends on the artist.
Mm-hmm.
You have some artists out there where the labels tell them what they need to say in their music and how they need to portray their image because there's a market out there for that. And then you have, you know, maybe a different type of artist who records the same kind of music but doesn't use explicit language, but there's a market for that artist too. Like, you know, you have conscious rap, you have underground rap, and that genre of rap more represents like recording poetry damn near, because everything that you say is deep. It's not about the music when it comes to those types of artists. It's really about the message.
Are you implying those genres don't use as much explicit language?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And they do use it, but not maybe the way other artists use it frequently.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, and then you have some hip hop artists that do more pop music. So just rapping over pop music, like, you know, you had Ja Rule in the past, Flo Rida, Pitbull, Nelly, you know what I mean? And you might hear an explicit word here and there, but the song's not about that.
So it has ratcheted up.
Then yeah, it has in its own way, yeah.
I mean, you know, it's been around forever in music. I'll date myself really quick, but I grew up listening to the Rolling Stones, and certainly not every song on their records would say something, but they said a lot of offensive things, or they sang things that offended a lot of people in their day.
Mm-hmm.
But then, and you know, as time goes on, I've continued to try to listen to what's out. And even, I mean, I probably gave myself away, but I've been a big rock and blues guy all my life. And as I heard newer bands coming out, you start hearing explicit lyrics for the sake of explicit lyrics. At least that's what my ears kind of hear. But I mean, you're right. Artists sometimes are, I mean, well, hopefully always, they're really just expressing emotion in that. But I'm glad I got that question off my chest. I'm going to ask the next 2 or 3 hip hop artists I have on the podcast the same question and see what they say. My own personal research.
Yeah. No, definitely. And it's good to get everyone's you know, opinion on that, because, you know, I'm just speaking from my opinion. Someone else might have something else different to say. You know, you even have hip hop artists out there that make a point not to use explicit language and that don't listen to those that do use explicit language. And again, that's what makes hip hop what it is. Very diverse and very marketable. And that's why we're celebrating 50 years of hip hop today, because we've made it this far.
Today.
Yeah, not today, but this year.
Wow, it's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. You know, it's $1 billion industry.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I was thinking the other day, like, you know, rock is dead. But and you said something earlier. I was just going to say that makes me laugh. Also, you were saying that you run into people that you never would think that they get into hip hop, and they do. And I was going to say, I always think that when I run into people a lot of times that listen to metal, I think, wow, you did not strike me as a metal guy or a metal person.
Yeah, anyway. Exactly. And that's
Some
the
kind of deal.
thing, all these other genres, they come and go. They have their time where, okay, it's about the boy bands. Okay, it's about, you know, country artists, pop artists, alternative artists, rock artists. But hip hop has never went away. Hip hop has always remained in the same position that it's always been. It's never gone and came back. It remains.
Oh yeah, totally. It's going very, very, very strong. I see it
Mm.
anytime I watch music on TV. I think that speaks a lot to, and you log into Spotify or Apple Music and you can just see what's charting and go, wow, look at that. I have to search for new rock now. They're almost extinct.
Yeah, I know, right? Like you don't have the same was it Metallica, Guns N' Roses,
I know. I feel like the Foo Fighters were one of the very last rock bands, right? I mean, I know they're out there. They're definitely out there, but
yeah,
like,
Foo
there's not a
Fighters,
lot
yeah.
of big ones. There's not a lot of big ones anymore. But
No,
anyway, it's okay.
no,
It's
no.
okay. I lived it. Okay, so I know everyone can find out all the cool stuff that you're doing at keldamuzik.com, which is with a K and a Z and
Yeah,
a K. For those of you that are
yeah.
wondering what that really means, the link will be in the show notes. And maybe some more podcast episodes this year. And you have a lot of great content. And I'm guessing that either Instagram or TikTok are your main jams. Is that right?
Yeah. All of them, to be honest.
I know you're on
LinkedIn,
all. I know you're on
Twitter.
all of them, but one of them is really your thing. Which one is it?
For me, Facebook.
Really? Wow, that's a
Yeah,
surprise. Okay, well, that's where
yeah.
people, if they really want to see, even though they can see your Facebook stuff on Instagram, I'm sure. I bet you that they can see
Right.
the real you on Facebook then. And you have
Yeah,
all.
because I'm always going live on Facebook, and there's just a lot of traction I get on there. So, and with Facebook, you could keep posting and posting as much as you want, and you'll still get the same amount of love from your fans. Whereas Instagram, it's like, no, you're only supposed to post like once or twice a day, or else people get tired of you.
That's
Which,
funny.
yeah,
That's funny.
I'm like,
Oh, that reminds me. Facebook groups. Do you use Facebook groups? And if so, how do you use them?
yeah, Facebook groups. I post my music videos in there. I chime in on conversations, depending what the topic is. Yeah, no, Facebook actually is a really good Facebook groups.
So meaning you have your own group that you have a little community going on and release the videos on, or do you mainly use them as member of groups and kind of weigh in on things and then put out some of your content in the appropriate groups?
Yeah, I'll join other groups and whatever topic they're discussing at the time, especially if it's like call to action type of
Mm-hmm.
thing, then yeah, that's when I usually participate. And from there, I'll use that as a way to network with others or to even drop some content on that page. So yeah, I do that, and then also too, I created a little group chat between me and all the models that I work with. We're all promoting each other's brands on that chat. And it's like 245 of us on there in that chat. That's how we also keep up with what fashion shows are going on, how many models are needed, what's expected, stuff like that. I should say that's why I do love Facebook the most out of all of them, because it's just easier for me to use. It's kind of almost like similar to how easy AOL was to use. You got your mail here, you got your buddy list here, you got your favorite places to visit, go to. It's just more resources to use on Facebook if you're looking to promote your brand or anything.
Before you said the AOL thing, I was going to say you're so old school.
Nah,
Kelda,
yeah.
and it's okay to
Mhm.
call you Kelda, yes?
Yes, of course.
Kelda, has been wonderful speaking with you.
Yes, it's been amazing speaking with you too. And I pronounce it Rabanzo.
Yeah, that's right. And you can
All
call me,
right.
you can also call me Roberto.
Rabanzo, Roberto.
Yeah. All right, good talking to you.
All right, same to you.
If you do not yet have a website for your music, check out Bandzoogle. It was created to help musicians and bands build their website and manage direct-to-fan marketing and sales. Bandzoogle features amazing design options, a commission-free store to sell merch, music, tickets, and you get detailed fan data. And there's more. Try it free at bandzoogle.com. Use the promo code ROBONZO, that's ROBONZO, to get 15% off your first year. You have been listening to the Unstarving Musician Podcast with Robonzo. That's me. Please follow us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. You can leave feedback about the podcast at unstarvingmusician.com/feedback. You can find links and mentions for this episode at unstarvingmusician.com. Peace, gratitude, and a whole lot of love.